Spider-Man just threw a punch so strong it launched a god across the entire galaxy. I'm Andrew the Geek Master, and in today's video, we're diving into the conclusion of the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man saga, a story that reveals what Peter is truly capable of if he had powers similar to Juggernaut. To not miss stories like this one, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and let's get started. The chapter starts with Peter explaining that ever since he was bitten by the radioactive spider that changed his life, he's always understood what it means to be strong. But even then, he never felt unstoppable. Now that he's become the Unstoppable Spider-Naut, he admits the feeling is intoxicating. That's when he lands a massive punch on Calyx, sending him flying far away from the battlefield. As Calyx's body tears through space all the way to Earth, Peter reflects on how there are still things that can stop him, like the pain of loss and the feeling that life has no meaning. Fear can make a person freeze, and Peter admits he gave in to that not too long ago. But now he promises he'll never let that happen again. Meanwhile, on Earth, Doom asks what's going on. Calyx has just been launched from the realm of Cyttorak all the way to Earth, and even Calyx himself can't understand how that's possible. Then, Juggernaut hears Peter's voice thanking him for protecting the city and complimenting his new suit. In return, Kane bluntly tells Peter he looks ridiculous in that form. The other X-Men are doing okay too. It seems Peter's attack was strong enough to remove the Blight's influence, but the battle isn't over yet. Sure enough, Calyx rises into the sky, trying to gather as much power as he can. But the truth is, this won't be a problem for Spider-Naut and Juggernaut. Using one of the X-Men's most classic moves, Juggernaut launches Peter with full force like a cannonball straight at the villain. The hit is so powerful that even Calyx starts to run away. As the X-Men try to stop him, Peter asks Juggernaut to launch him again. But Kane says it's not a good idea. Now that the X-Men are back on their feet, they can take on Calyx, and they already are. Peter's real fight lies above, with the Blight hovering over the Earth. At that moment, Peter begins to doubt himself. But remembering Juggernaut's words, that in this form nothing can stop him, Peter realizes he's thought about this enough. He already knows the answer and nothing else matters. He also accepts that he's lived a good life and uses the terrible trebuchet of Thogoth to build up momentum and then launches himself off Earth, breaking through the terrifying Blight looming above the planet. Peter even jokes that he won't miss using magic. But he did love the dumb spell names. As Spider-Naut clashes with the Blight, Strange warns Doom that Spider-Man's attacks won't be enough. They truly need Cyttorak. But then Strange starts to realize what's happening. He even begins to suspect Doom planned all of this from the start, and that this is why he chose Spider-Man. Meanwhile, in the Crimson Cosmos, Syra is furious that Cyttorak remains still despite everything going on. She begins speaking to her father, reminding him that she gave up her immortality to bring Peter back, and now that same mortal is fighting to protect everyone, including Cyttorak. That's when the entity finally starts to speak. He wonders why he feels frozen, uncertain, and confused. Syra says she's asked herself those same questions, especially after meeting a certain strange human. But something unimaginable has happened. Cyttorak has lost 6 of his children, their immortalities absorbed by the Blight using Calyx's form, and now, for the first time, Cyttorak feels pain. That's when the unstoppable god screams that nothing can hurt him. But Syra insists, sadly, that this time it's true. Cyttorak did nothing while his children were murdered. The pain he's feeling now is unavoidable, and she can't help him. But maybe someone can if it's not too late. Back with Peter, he's in an impossible battle against the Blight, a force of nature that exists only to erase souls from existence. No one knows why this thing exists. Strange found a way to hide this whole dimension from the Blight, but to do so, it required the power of a god. On the other hand, Peter is just a kid from Queens who took a crash course in magic last week. But with the power that Syra gave him, Maybe he'll be able to find a way to summon and launch the casket of Cyttorak, which is basically what protects Earth from the Blight. The detail is that Peter will have to keep casting the mirror continuously, and as a result, he will die in the process. However, suddenly, Cyttorak appears before Peter, saying that failure is inevitable, but not today. With the power Peter absorbed, he can live for 100 years. Meanwhile, the Blight is a force of nature that will exist forever, so sooner or later, it will consume Earth. Spider-Man responds that he knows that, but he's still going to cast his spell anyway. This confuses Cyttorak. If the Blight is going to win anyway, then why fight? Why do it if life is so fragile? But then Peter responds that despite all the magical and crazy things that happened to him recently, this is the only life he has. Most of it was really hard and definitely not fair. But still, it's his life, and there's no other like it. It's beautiful because it's fragile, and all forms of life are like that. Even if thousands of years pass, and Peter's life no longer matters, today matters, and it's worth fighting for this day. Peter also understands that Cyttorak may not get it since he's immortal, but Spider-Man doesn't care about that. He's alive, and he's going to keep fighting just like everyone else. After this very sincere and inspiring speech, Cyttorak simply pushes Peter aside and takes his place. What happens next is recorded in the Book of the Vishanti. The immovable god Cyttorak told the Earth's champion that he was hurt and didn't see an end to this pain. But if the Earth's champion can face his pain and loss despite being fragile and insignificant, then Cyttorak can do it too. That day, Cyttorak promised to become the barrier that protects Earth from the Blight. That day, a new pact was born, a pact forged by Cyttorak's own will. And that day, Doom, the Sorcerer Supreme, taught a god what it means to live and forged a barrier that would protect the universe from the Blight forever. With everything resolved here, Peter finally returns to Earth in his normal form through a portal from Strange. He's so happy to see that Calyx was defeated by the X-Men and Earth has been saved that he simply collapses on the ground. He even jokes that he never wants to do magic again, not even at a kid's party. Sometime later, during Kenneth's funeral, the priest talks a little about him. He was a simple window cleaner who spent his whole life allowing others to see the world in a brighter way. Among the crowd, Peter and Bailey are found. The boy thinks all of this is quite sad, and Peter agrees, but asks the boy to listen to the entire speech. Motivated by the speech, Peter went to Aunt May to apologize for not having acted well in recent days and asks for her forgiveness, receiving a hug from May. He also meets with Felicia. He knows he doesn't have to apologize, but he also doesn't have to thank her. He just wants things to be weird and complicated between them, and Felicia understands, claiming that they are both adults, or at least she is. The only thing she doesn't want to see anymore is an emo Peter. Nobody likes emo Peter, especially emo Peter who dances. Meanwhile, in the Crimson Cosmos, we discover that Calyx is now imprisoned. He was captured on Cyttorak's throne, and Syra jokes that her brother finally got what he wanted. Back on Earth, Peter meets with Randy and thanks him for all the good work he's done. Randy responds that this is the first time anyone's thanked him for a disaster. It turns out that Peter Parker's exhibit is filled with photos he took of Spider-Man. Randy knows no one's going to buy those photos. The good side is that at least his family and friends are gathered. And speaking of which, suddenly, Shay Markin appears here as well. Seeing her, Peter immediately starts apologizing for everything that happened. He wasn't going through a good time, although he knows that's not a good excuse. Still, Peter asks if they can try to be together again, and surprisingly, Shay responds that she's thinking about it. After all, she knows Peter will need a good nurse after the beating she intends to give him. Yes, the story ends with Peter and Shay getting back together as a couple. 8 Deaths of Spider-Man ended up being a good conclusion to a run that was totally questioned by fans. After losing Mary Jane, separating from all his friends, including Aunt May, and even quitting being Spider-Man, by the end of this saga, Peter showed why he is a true hero. Cyttorak, the god who claimed to be immortal and indestructible, only started to act after seeing Peter Parker face pain and death head-on with courage. That's when the mortal became the example for the god. He also mended all his relationships, even getting back together with Shay. Marvel insists on keeping Peter away from Mary Jane or Felicia, who are the only options the fans truly want. Now a new Spider-Man run is starting, and I ask you to comment if you want to see it here on the channel and what you think of the conclusion of this saga. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.